Hi everyone, this is Jim. After that tournament in Reno, I got back and played a nice game the next week at my local chess club, and I thought I would share that with you too. And then after this, I will get back to my regularly scheduled program of blitz games with live commentary and postmortem. So this will be the last slow game postmortem for a while. This game was played. Time control was game in an hour and a half, so faster than about twice as fast actually as this tournament, the Reno tournament games. And there is a 5-second delay as well. So anyway, I had the black pieces, and my opponent with the white pieces is someone I have played before, and he's got a rating of 1957. And my rating for this tournament was 1773, so almost a 200-point rating gap. But, well, since this is a player at my local club, I've played him many times before, and I've beaten him before as well. I mean, he has a good score overall against me. I didn't look it up, but he's won more times than he's lost. But he makes mistakes, and I have chances. So anyway, he's got the white pieces. He played d4. I think one of the things is he moves kind of quickly. I think he must play a lot of blitz. And sometimes that will get him into trouble. But he's a very sharp tactical player, so he's always fun to play against. So d4, c4. I decided at this point to go for a Grunfeld. Hadn't played one of those for a while, and it just kind of felt like playing something different. So he went knight c3, and I went d5. And now he went e3. e3 is really a rare move here. The main move, of course, is taking, and the acceptable respectable second choice there is knight to f3. Also, these bishop moves are kind of interesting. Bishop to f4 and bishop to g5 are both interesting ways to play against the Grunfeld. But e3 is kind of down on the list, although there's nothing wrong with it. I guess it's just getting me out of my book. It's waiting to see if I want to take this pawn so he can take back with the bishop. Of course, I don't want to do that. I keep developing. He goes knight f3, and I castle. And I think at this point we've actually just transposed back into the knight f3 line. So we've got a pretty common position here. And my opponent plays a really rare move at this point. The ways that white has proceeded most commonly in this position is, well, simple developing moves like bishop to d2 are played here. Also b4, expanding on the queen side, has been played in this position, and just exchanging and getting that typical big center after I take back. So that's yeah, those are the ways it's been played. But my opponent played something different. He played c5, which is really out of the opening book, and the chess engine doesn't really approve of this. It thinks that white should not play this way. It gives a slight advantage to black after b6, which I think is the right way to play. You've got to challenge that. You don't want to allow white to have, unfettered reign over the queen side. Let's see. He played b4, and I went and exchanged. He took back. And then I played bishop to a6. My idea here is just very simple. Looks like these pawns are going to come forward onto light squares, most likely, unless I can get the e5 break-in, which is certainly desirable in the Grunfeld to liberate this bishop. So just trading off the light-squared bishop made sense to me. Now, the chess engine is not really worried about the bishop at this point and would just play something like c6 and still thinks black is doing fine. But after this, bishop takes, he takes, knight takes, and queen a4. It actually switches sides, and the chess engine likes white at this point. I guess because that queen got developed with the tempo against my knight. And my knight doesn't have anywhere great to go. It doesn't really want to go back to b8, but queen to c8 seems like kind of a weak alternative here. Anyway, I thought for a long time at this point, and eventually I came up with a clever move. So there is a clever move that black can play here, and it's kind of interesting. If you want to look for it, this would be a good chance to see if you can spot a interesting and tactical move for black. Okay, yeah, after thinking for a long time, I played the move knight to e4. And actually, at the time I played it, I had forgotten about the fact that my knight was hanging on a6, which sometimes happens to me when I think too long on a move. I forget some key points. But it turns out to be okay anyway. So, well, the first point is that if white takes the knight, then I take the knight, and so we come out even. And let's see, if he takes the pawn, actually this queen takes, knight takes, this is the line that the chess engine thinks white should play, and it thinks that white is still in pretty good shape here. But I don't know, I think this is interesting for me to play as well. I haven't had to move my knight backwards, and I've gotten rid of my light squared bishop. So, and white still needs to castle here. I guess this knight I have to worry a little bit about rescuing this knight, but it can always come back this way. Maybe there'll be a little bit of a time waste there. Anyway, that's not what he played. There are other ideas here. For example, if he takes the pawn, I can take back with the queen, and then if he grabs this knight, I can take here and get the pawn back. So I stay a pawn up, and this is showing the power of the Grunfeld bishop. You always have to look for tactics along the long diagonal. But well, my opponent, he thought for a long time in this position and spotted a way to win a pawn, and he went for it. He takes the knight. And this is what I was furiously calculating after I noticed that I had overlooked the fact that my knight was hanging. And I'm saved by the fact that when I take back with the pawn, his knight is still hanging. So we still have, even though I'm a piece down, if he grabs the knight, his knight is hanging too. So, so it all comes out. And that's what happens. He takes the knight, I take his knight, and then he took back. And so he's a pawn up, but oddly enough, this is a position where black is a little bit better. It would have been better for white just to play simply and trade knights as just by taking immediately and not going for this complicated line where he wins a pawn. But anyway, it's always interesting to play this way. There is a key move from black coming up. And, well, it's the next move. So if you want to spot the next move for black, I think this is a key move to make this position something that is not only playable for black, but also good for black. Okay, pause the video if you want time to think about it. I'm giving the answer away now. Move is e5. And once again, it all has to do with this Grunfeld bishop. You want to activate that bishop, give it scope, and at the same time you want to undermine white's center, so kind of classic Grunfeld strategy. He took, which is actually the best move. He could just castle here, and after which I would take, and then when he takes back, I take here, hitting his rook and hitting this pawn, rook to b1, and I end up a pawn up and with a better structure, although that difference is kind of minor. I think the main difference is I'm just a pawn up in this position. So, so white's best try is to go ahead and take this pawn. And now my best move here is the immediate queen d5. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why this is better than what I played. I took here first, hitting his rook, and then I played queen d5. I think queen d5 is a key move in any place. I need to it's not just about centralizing the piece. It's also about looking at these weak pawns in black's position, and so this position, if white defends correctly, this is about even. So apparently, if I had played queen d5 first, that would have been keeping an advantage to black. So the way that white should play here is just e4 is one of the lines I was looking at, and I thought that was a likely move. Kicks the queen, I get my pawn back, so material is even. And, I expect my opponent was looking at this position and not liking it too much. For one thing, the king isn't castled, the king side is kind of a wreck, and I've equalized in material, so you might think at first glance that black has an edge here. But, well, the line continues. The computer gives bishop e3, kicking the queen back, and then king to e2, connecting the rooks and just leaving the king in the center. So maybe this is an idea that didn't really appeal to my opponent, or something that didn't occur to him. But in any case, the chess engine rates this as even. So apparently the king in the center is just as safe as my king over here. It's got a pretty solid pawn shield there and a good piece. as well. So I do think that looks pretty safe. And with the king on e2, the rooks are connected and they can get into the game. So in any case, this would be a game. Whether you believe the chess engine that it's exactly even or not, it would definitely be playable. Whereas my opponent, after thinking for a long time, played the move queen to a3. And this, oddly enough, is just completely losing. And it wasn't obvious to me at all that it was losing during the game. But I played the first move here, which was pretty obvious. I grabbed this pawn since he defended this pawn. And I also noticed I'm taking this with tempo. I'm hitting his rook. But he castled pretty quickly right here. So obviously he was planning this sequence out before playing this queen a3 move, because he spent a long time playing that, before playing that, and then he made this castling move pretty quickly. So he saved this pawn, so I don't have any passed pawns. All my pawns are blocked, and he managed to get his king castled. His rooks are almost connected. The bishop still has to leave the back rank, and maybe that's as far ahead as he calculated, I guess, and thought that he would just play this position and have some even chances. But in fact, this is completely losing because of a particular tactic or two. I guess there's more than one tactic in this position, but well, see if you can spot the tactic here. Yeah, pause the video if you want time to think about it. I will say it took me a long time to find this tactic because, well, for one thing, in a game you don't have someone around to tell you that there's a tactic here. And the other thing is, you know, I was not finding any direct attacking ideas, so it seemed a little bit tricky to me. So I was just exploring all of these, you know, I was exploring all these different ways to continue the attack, and while looking at the different checks and things, then I spotted the tactic. So it took me a long time to find this idea, but anyway, yeah, I'm giving it away now. The move is queen to g4 check, and of course the king only has one square to go to. And now in this position, there's actually two tactics, and I just went for the one that I spotted. But you might want to look, if you only found one tactic when you were calculating earlier, see if you can spot both tactics and see if you can find which one is best. What's the best move here? Okay, pause the video if you want some time to think about this. I'm giving the answer away now. So the tactic I had spotted originally was this one. I check the king, drive him to the corner, and then I check from this square where I've got a fork against the loose rook over here on b1. That was the tactic I finally spotted, but that's actually not even the best move here, because queen to h3 forces a mate. The thing is, earlier I had realized that queen h3 was an interesting move, but he could always block it with f4. But right now, with the king driven to the corner first, now the queen on h3 is threatening two things. It's threatening queen takes rook mate, and it's threatening queen takes pawn mate, and white cannot meet both of those threats. So so this tactic was not so obvious to me in this position when I was starting to calculate, but they check and pick up the rook. That was obvious to me. But it's check here, and then here is mating. Anyway, I played this move, check, and this is winning. So we'll just go through the rest of the game. I mean, I'm a whole rook up. And he kept playing on. I mean, well, you're there for the evening. You might as well keep playing. The game would have been pretty short to end right here. So let's see, played f4, moved my bishop back, got his bishop out from the back rank, hitting my queen. I went queen to b2. If you wanted to trade queens, I'd be happy with that. He dropped his queen back here. I brought the f rook into the game. I figured that was more important than defending pawns at this point. Just get all my pieces in. He played bishop c1, hitting my queen. I was expecting that. I went here, and then he did grab this pawn. But I have this move, rook to d1, which is a kind of fork. If he takes my rook, I'll take back with check and pick up his bishop. So so I moved his bishop out of the way, but it turns out there was no, well, there's the tactic here too. So if you want to spot the tactic here, see if you can find it. Okay, pause the video if you want time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away now. It's rook takes rook, and after he takes back, then this check also picks up the bishop. So now I'm a rook and a bishop up. And what I was about to say before I realized it would give away the tactic is that the bishop here has no square to go to. If it goes here or here, it just gets taken, and if it goes there, it's the exchange check and take. So there was just no way out at this point. So that was all forced. See, I grabbed the bishop. He's got a passed pawn now, so he keeps playing. See, I grabbed this pawn, and he went to here, and then I got my queen back over this way. That was part of the point of grabbing that pawn, was getting my queen here so I can support a rook coming to c8. Let's see, he went queen b7, I went rook c8, he went c7, brought my queen to d7. Let's see, he played e4, and I took the pawn, and he decided to resign at this point, not too soon. But anyway, it was a fun little game to end this series of games, just to show you I can win on occasion in good style. So as I said before, I will be getting back to my regularly scheduled program of blitz games with live commentary and postmortem. So I will see you then.